Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Transfer Market Metrics by Anfield Index. It's been a while since we've done one of these, admittedly, but the transfer window in January is set to open only a couple of days' time, isn't it? And wingers seem to be on the agenda. Of course, we're going to talk Antoine Semenyo and that potential. Of course, we're going to talk about summer. And we'll even talk about the new name that we mentioned in the transfer show. And very strange that Richard Hughes does seem to have a kink for Bundesliga wingers. We'll even delve a little bit to South America. And I am pleased as ever to be joined by Mr. Doctor. I nearly, look at that, I nearly cut your PhD to ribbons there, didn't I? Dr. Barts as ever. And Barts, I haven't minded this. I have given you plenty of homework, haven't I, in this Christmas period, it's fair to say.
Yeah, for sure. There's some interesting players. There seems to be a partial for the Bundesliga, which is interesting.
Yeah, it was weird. I remember when Richard Hughes joined, everyone told us that he knew the Italian league inside out, didn't he? And that was the one. And then Chiesa signed, but it does seem to be Germany, so we are going to spend a bit of time there. But we're going to start, Barts, with. It's probably the hottest news. It's not a new player. We've profiled him before. We looked at his update that it seems to be City or Liverpool for Antoine Semenyo. And we're not going to go through all that sort of transfer talk. It's more about the analysis part. And the name that seems to be strongly linked for the summer, and a lot of fans and a lot of people are saying this is the one we should be going for with the longer game, Bradley Barcola, who, of course, will have only a couple of years left on his deal, won't he, in the summer? PSG have been negotiating for a while, but no breakthrough. Moved agent as well. Jorge Mendes, who was great, but now with Moussa Sissoko. Do you remember that guy who gave us that handball from Mane in the Champions League final that time as well? That's his agent as well. So, yeah, a lot to like. But Semenyo, Barcola, and we'll start with probably a bit of Semenyo and whether you think we might pull the trigger on this one.
I think we've done it before, and he's not. I think he's kind of improved some areas defensively for us. I think that's a characteristic of the Bournemouth team. If anyone watches them, will tell you they'll work extremely hard off ball, and you can see that their blocks and clearances in the high 80s or 90th percentile. So that's. Yeah. Shows you that he would work down that left side for us in much the way that Diaz used to for us. I'm not saying that Cody doesn't, but Cody does it a different way. So, there's things that he would be something you'd have to change for him is the tackles. We don't necessarily want our players to commit. We want to block and be back in position, that kind of thing. So that's something slight. The bit here I think's changed a little bit for him, certainly since the last time you and I looked at him, is the between box stuff. So I remember distinctly in the summer, I think we looked at him as a potential for back end of the window signing. He became up a lot greener, should we say, in between the boxes. And I think all this says to me is he's now playing slightly higher. So he's maybe receiving the ball further up and not necessarily carrying it as much. So his progressive carries are lower. So he's still carrying the ball, but he's getting it already in a position to carry it. So the ability to carry a ball when you're already in the final third progressively is limited because you've got to carry it 25 yards closer to the goal, right? So that's probably one of the reasons why you've seen a lot more dull green rather than the super green that it was. Right. In terms of in the box, I think last time we looked at him, he's probably riding a bit hot. I'm not saying he's not performing now, he still is, but it's just not the extreme red hot stuff. He's still got a non-penalty XG of 0.39, which is 85th percentile. Goals, sorry. And he's got 0.25 XG. Shots 2.6, which per 90, that should say that, which is 70th percentile. So in shot creating action, he's 3.57, so that's 50th percentile. So he's switched his game a bit more to being the shot taker, if you like, rather than the curator, I would suggest. But this isn't like, this is not me saying, he's come off a cliff for the rest of it. He's still performing at a very good level. It's just that I think his game's changed slightly. If you look at a typical board I would do for him, So he's still picking the ball up in good areas in where we want him to. He's still picking it up regularly. You know, every other minute he's involved, either a touch or a pass, which is what you want from this kid for us. He's still receiving it in and around the half space areas that we want him to. Okay, so those are things that we'd still expect him to do. This particular game I looked at for him was Burnley. He contributed nearly 16% of the team's threat, which is something you want from your wide areas. Mark our stats has got him as 0.09 for passes and crosses for XT. So that's kind of your gold standard for threat. So that's pretty good for him. A pretty good sort of just above league average rate for him. Where's he creating? So here you'll see that again in the areas we want, which is in and around the left half space. Okay, so that's again, these are things that you want to your left winger to be doing for you, right? Okay. In terms of off the ball, he is contributing to around 9, nearly 11% of defensive actions off the ball for Bournemouth in this game. So that's pretty high, which is again what we want to support our fullback, which is Kirkhead on this side. And actually in this one, he actually scored. So it's
good goal.
Scored a great goal from outside the box. He took 2 shots inside the box. Good XG wise, but they're to the left. They're not centrally where we'd normally expect our ball to be taking it. So yeah, and if you watch him, I mean, he carries it. He's powerful. He shoots with both feet. One thing that might please people if you'd started to see both our fullbacks are now starting to pull the ball back into areas. So the weekend, for example, you saw Frimpong go down the wing, pull it into an area, and Gravenberg slide it home, right? The previous game, Kirkhead was doing it from the left as well. So, and Semenyo typically does that kind of thing for Bournemouth. It's just that he's playing with the greatest respect. He's playing with a slightly lower level quality forward. So they're not necessarily putting the chances that he's created away or in the box. But no, I think he's a good Premier League winger. 27, probably towards the latter end of an age profile that we would look to sign. Not to say that we shouldn't sign him, but he's at that age. I think it's good that we're in the mix, but you can understand why the teams are as well. To be honest with you, he's a man of the moment sort of thing, and at that price point, some teams are looking and go, okay, that's something we should be looking at.
I think we won't go too much on Semenyo because we've done him before, but think of the few things that people will reference because you're saying hot. I mean, he scored in his last 3. I think he's second Premier League top scorer as well. And I think it's important to say because as we've been digging on this and trying to get information, I know me and you have got sent sort of footage and bits by analysts, but you've seen even in the away game against City and the away game against Sunderland, he could easily, his style of play, have a good few more assists, like you said. He's not trying to be derogatory against Bournemouth, but creates real chances, isn't it? As we see that ability to just, especially that footage we get against Sunderland or City, just knock it, beat a man and get it in, which might be what Liverpool are looking for in a way.
No, 100%. I think he is, I think it's fair to say he's direct. And that's not a derogatory thing, right? I think at times we've been too non-direct in our play,
side to
side, and even at the weekend we created loads of threat, but it's just sometimes you want that Diaz type who just went, do you know what, I'm going to go and drive a goal, and I might miss the opportunity, but I'm going to drive in there and try and make something happen, and Semenyo does that for you in buckets, really. I think that's probably a good thing. And if you watch the footage, I like the way he's comfortable on both feet. He'll go past the player, cut back, play it with left or right, happy to take a shot on, doesn't get knocked off the ball, which is something, particularly for a pass on coming from Bully, something to be aware of. I think is probably looking at, and again, our Germans are coming to good fruition, right? They're starting to come to the mix, right? But if you look at like Marmoush and other players that have made that transition, they've sort of had in differing seasons and applications. So I think it's something to be aware of, certainly if you're importing from different leagues.
I think it is important as well because it's even on this show, it's important to talk about. We know that we've seen the stories that Wirtz has put on 2 kilograms of muscle, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Arne Slot has talked about Hugo Ekitike doing extra running sessions, extra gym sessions as well. And look how they're starting to come good. It's about getting used to that physicality. So it is important to mention as well. It's a plug and play. Antoine Semenyo, if it happens, again, this is an if, would be a ready-made option. But a lot of people are mentioning this, and the Liverpool links even go back to last summer. So this isn't a new name, but there's quite a few Barts will say Bradley Barcola, that actually if we are going to wait and we're not going to do Semenyo now, and we're going to maybe wait to the summer, keep our powder dry, this is the one to really press for. I suppose, is that fair in terms of this profile, and is it really that shining? Because some people are clear on Barcola versus over Semenyo. It's really fair to say, isn't it? Do you match that?
I have to be honest with you. I think when we, again, going back, you and I have looked at wingers almost as long as we've looked at DMs, right? We must have looked at 20 of each player, right? Various levels of quality, various spurious links to really hardcore. We put a bid in and missed out. But Barcola, for me, a bit like Pompana, I just think they're, particularly Barcola, they're just a little bit a level above for me than Semenyo. He's younger. If you watch him on the footage, he is quick. He does carry it well. He beats a man. He carries it from deep. A lot of the positions he's played it at halfway, and he's happy to carry it 30, 40 yards, beat a player. And the thing I like about Barcola is that, how do I say it? It's sort of like, what's bullet time? He slows the game down and says, right, what am I going to do? Am I going to beat the man? Am I going to play the pass? Or am I going to have a shot? And then when he wants to, it speeds it up again. And I think it's that decision-making in the precise moment that was a key weapon in PSG last season. We saw it at both legs against us. He was brilliant. He was brilliant in the Champions League final. And I just think he's got just a slightly level above in terms of finesse. People have gone about, it's a Farmers League and the rest. And okay, fair enough. But in Champions League games as well, he's doing it. He's done it. Right. He's done it week in, week out for Champions League. And the number of games you play in Champions League now, that isn't just to throw away once every couple of weeks, it's every single week. So if you don't like what he's doing in the French League, all right, but he's doing it in the Champions League. And again, going back to Mark, our stats site for threat as being the gold standard, Barcola is at 0.11 for the same measure that Semenyo was. So he's a little bit higher, a little bit level above. I personally prefer Barcola. I know he's probably more expensive. He does play on the left mainly. He's very left. He's a bit more left dominant than Semenyo. Takes the shots on, not a problem, but he also plays a really good ball as well from where you are. And if you look at the stats wise, this is a lot greener, and this also reflects what we've said. He is very good between the boxes because they give him the ball early and ask him, get us up the pitch. Go on, get us up the pitch, get us into that final third, and then see what we can do. When he's in the final third, he makes a shot creating actions in 84th percentile. So that's not just him taking the shot on, because his shots is only in 85th percentile. He's not in the high. So he is passing. He's non-penalty XG and expected assists. He's 99th percentile, which shows you his decision-making in that final third of a pass or a shot is in the 99th percentile. Only 1% of players that are better than him at doing that at the moment, right? If you look at the comparison with Semenyo, it almost dwarfs him. It's just the off-the-ball stuff and the actual goals that Semenyo's probably got a little bit higher at the moment. As you said, he's in a run of form at the moment in the Premier League, whereas Barcola isn't necessarily the team to do that as much. So Barcola's passes are going to teammates who score because he's playing at the higher level of quality of player. Whereas Semenyo, if he's not scoring, then it's not quite happening for the team.
It's difficult to compare them, isn't there? Because of the leagues, because of the levels the players are playing with. Yeah. Exactly.
So if you look at defensively, Barcola's not going to win you a lot aerially. Okay, we can compensate for that. Clearances he's not used to, but he does the blocks and interceptions, which is what we want. Okay, so there's a lot to like there. And if you go at some of the stuff I've done for him, again, operates slightly deeper than Semenyo, but still looking to get into this left half space. picks it up with regularity, which is considering the other players in that PSG team. To see he's still a fulcrum of their attacks is quite exceptional, really. So the larger the size of the disc means the number of passes he goes to. Yeah, so he receives probably the most passes to the front four for PSG, which is saying something. In terms of this particular game, he contributed nearly 18% of PSG's threat, which is pretty high. Again, in a team littered with players, is pretty good. Threat, where's he creating for us? So he's creating in the wide areas what you want and drifted into half spaces, which again what you want. Shots, he's not going to have the same impact. All right, he's not going to be the one that is going to score you loads. But the thing to note with Barcola is his directness when he's decided to take a shot takes him into a central area to take that shot on. Right, whereas Semenyo, the game you looked at for him, were out wide, yeah. So whereas Barcola, he's decided to take a shot in here on 3 occasions, and they're all pretty much between the 2 sticks, which is a preferred option. We know from Slot and his coaching this season. We've gone away from that a little bit, but that's what you want. So yeah, I think there's a lot to like off the ball. Just looking at him, he's very good, covers a lot of ground, does a lot of defensive actions for his particular area. So again, that's a symptom of the coach he's playing with. And you don't win Champions League unless you do the work off the ball as well. So yeah, as I said, I like Barcola a lot. I think he's just a little bit of a level above. I think he's just a little bit. The quality on the final decision is probably slightly better for me.
And some of because we always talk physical metrics, I think everyone knows that Semenyo's physically blessed, you could say, really, couldn't you? With strength, power, anything you could name. There's a reason why, he's on the list, if you want, or being looked at. Barcola, the UEFA's got him just below 36, 35.87 kmh, and we've seen him, you can see from the footage, rapid in terms of acceleration is one of his gifts, but as you said, can also pass it. In terms of age, Semenyo 26, Barcola 23. That's probably maybe key, and we know what age we'd like to buy. As you said, Semenyo probably more the top end. I suppose, Bart, the thing that maybe steers us for a little bit, and I think this is important to say for people, so Barcola is in and out the team a little bit in PSG. And to be fair, it's understandable because Kavicha, Dembele, Doué, the stars there, obviously the midfield and the way they want to play. We all know those, so there's that. But everyone knows about Semenyo's release clause. We don't need to go into that. Everyone's fully briefed on that. But Barcola, looking to do a new deal, moved agent, which has, made it a bit more difficult for that negotiation. But his contract does end 2028. So he will be in that 2-year period. And all the suggestions are that if PSG don't get a deal with him that they want, like they did with, Donnarumma and others, it's a bit of a newer style there, isn't it? Like you're on board or you're not type of thing. And if we can't get it done, they'll probably move him out. Now, everyone will always ask price point and what it is. Keeping in mind Barcola is probably a level above. For me, people and us disagree on that. With 2 years left to go, it is feasible. And this is not us saying it's definitely the price point, but the question it boils down to, Bart, Semenyo now, 65 million. Barcola in the summer, 65 million because of 2 years left to go on his deal. Of course, Barcola's wages will be higher and all that. Which one would you do?
Right now, that's a really lot of questions, isn't it? That's why I get paid a lot of money. But no, for me, okay, so we've just lost our main man, our number 9, right? Yeah. So that feeds into it. Personally, I think it's more important in January that we look at other areas than wide left, personally. So if I was looking to try and be a bit more, keep the strategy going and building a new Liverpool team, I would personally keep my powder dry and go for Barcola. If you've got a nod that you can get him in the summer, then that's the person I would then go, right, he'll slot in and do my piece. And again, would I be happy either way? Of course, right? Yeah. Good players are good players. But for me, in terms of my assessment, and people can have a go at me and say, that's wrong, you're talking bollocks and the rest of it, and that's fine. But my assessment of where we are as a team right now is more important we work out how to keep clean sheets again, right, than find another attacker. Our ability to create threat and convert that to XG and the rest of it is not as big a problem as in our ability to defend, particularly set pieces. So, I think I would personally in January look at how we fit. If you were going to buy someone, how can we fix the back end or midfield rather than the front end? But that, again, you know me, I've always been defensive first, and people, but that's just who I am.
No, I get it. And to be fair, I also get it. I know it's a loaded question because I understand that people say we're a bit one pace in attack right now. Semenyo, could give you. I get all that, but I'm similar to you. For all the priorities we've got, I would rather Barcola in the summer. But we'll have to see what happens on the 1st of January, won't we? And then into the summer. And of course, down the line, Barcola could sign a massive contract with PSG. And it all becomes mute. So we'll have to see on all those. Right. Topic number 1 done. Topic number 2, Bart. I don't know what is going on with Richard Hughes. And that's not a wider question, people, before you all jump on. But from the names we're getting in, that we've said to you before, on the transfer show, we've told you that they had spoken to Jorge Mendes about Karim Adeyimi. So we're going to have a look at him. Of course we are. And that potential knockdown price. We've mentioned before about Diamande, definitely not a knockdown price, but we need to start to steer into, is he worth it? Could he even rival Barcola potentially for Bart if he comes on the mix? And then there's a third name that we broke on the transfer show, and maybe just because of the prices, everything being in the mix, that Bahoya at Frankfurt might be the one that they've spoken to the club about, as we know. So Barts, Liverpool have clearly got, Richard Hughes has clearly got some kind of Bundesliga kink for attackers, hasn't he? Because Wirtz, Ekitike, and now we're looking at, obviously, these, aside from, of course, Barcola and Semenyo. But let's start with Adeyimi. As we know, this feels like one of those potential Semenyo opportunities or alternatives if it doesn't happen. 18 months left to go. As we said on the transfer show, one that Edwards has liked for a while. But there is a few question marks, and we don't have a metric for the no dickheads test, by the way. We don't understand that for attitude. But let's do what we do with metrics, first of all, and have a look at Adeyemi, see how he breaks down.
Yeah, I think there's a definite shift, isn't there, towards looking at the bully as a way to bring players in. And I think most sporting directors have a favoured league day. If you look at Ward, love the Portuguese league, right? You look at the players we brought from them. So Edwards before used to go with Spanish and bully as well. So they just do. It's just where your contact's for. I think the best ones are able to flip and manoeuvre and just get the best players. Doesn't matter what league they're in. If you look at this kid. Interesting. Defensively, probably not as good in the areas that we would expect compared to the other two. Okay, I think blocks and clearances less so much, but blocks is something. Interceptions, again, 82, whereas the other two we've looked at were in the high 80s. Or tackles definitely were higher, although it's not as important for us. Still, his work rate and areas at 66, a little bit lower down. So that is an area in which we would needs some improvements, some coaching on, and maybe that's just a system thing. Dortmund do play, I think they play a 3-5-2, or generally play slightly more centre back. Yeah. So if you're asking him to play wide up front, then the defensive workload will be less because you've already got several players behind him. Whereas if you play a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, then the workload for that particular role is higher. So that could just be a role perception for him. Between the boxes, he receives a lot of progressive passes, which again supports the notion that he's not actually carrying it from deep, right? He's receiving it higher up. So he's receiving a ball that moves closer to goal over 20%, 80th percentile. That's nearly 10 a game he gets. He takes players on in the 80th percentile and he gets it in the box, 82nd percentile, such as the attacking penalty box. Doesn't carry it progressively in a high percentile, about 60 off. And then passes and completion of progressive passes are low, which says that he gets into the final third, into the penalty box, and takes a shot on, okay, rather than taking a pass.
Yeah.
If you want someone to be decisive, okay, this might be your man. Non-penalty goals, he's in 93rd percentile. Non-penalty XG, 84th percentile. So he's probably slightly overperforming what he should be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. Shots total, 2.7. So that's just below 3. So he could be doing a bit more.
You always say as well that 3 is about what we look for.
Yeah, 3 what we should be looking for, particularly if you're that. If your idea is get in there, get a shot off, then below 3 is shows you. It might be getting blocked though. You don't know. Of course. It might be some little things in there. Assists low for someone playing wide and providing. If you're looking for someone to supplement Ekatike and Isak, then this probably isn't your guy with it with assists. Expected goals 82. So overall shot creating actions 51. Again, which comes down to that notion that he's not necessarily looking to provide, or it's just a more of a direct player. So if you look at the stuff that I've done for him, he takes a wider positions, not receiving the ball in as much volume as the others. Okay, so you'd want him to do more when he receives it. He's down at less than 5% of threat created. Okay, so again, he's more of a be on the end of stuff rather than the bit in between. Threat creation, again, not in high volume areas. Okay, so that's sort of left to your brands and the like. Off the ball, typically, just trying to find him in here, probably not. That probably gives you an indication of the workload he's not doing. Yeah, he's in an area where there's like 3% and 6 and 9. So that's not a particularly high volume of things. And in terms of shots, I think he got 3 shots off it, 1 shot off in this game. So, yeah, I think if you watch him as well, plays on the right, likes to be on the end of stuff. So even if he's not creating, he likes to come inside and be on the end of the left winger crossing. So, yeah, I think he also to be wary of. He's okay for now, but he uses his pace to beat a man rather than a trick. Which later on in your career, that could be a problem. If you've got nothing else in your locker and pace is your trick, then you're going to find it difficult to beat a man later on. Threat-wise, the same as Semenyo at 0.08. Pace-wise, Buddy had him at 35.8. So pretty quick player for the moment. But it looks like a budget option, but maybe not quite the profile we want to supply our forward line.
It's one of those, and we'll kind of do analysis against the others, but there's things to like, and obviously people will talk about weapons charges and everything on the pitch. Like, this is transfer market metrics, people. I can't put a number on like the XG of like weapons scoring or anything like that. So we're not going to go down that route at all. But obviously people will talk, I get it. And Dortmund's sporting director has even come out and said after the last game, when he kind of was stomped off a little bit, we speak to him, likely get fined, as they are public in Germany as well. But the big thing we got, Barts, on the transfer show was part of it is 18 months left to go on his deal. No, a bit like, it's funny with Dortmund because of that type of club where, and this is, be derogatory Dortmund fans, but quite often sometimes players are looking for the next thing, aren't they? Like Haaland, Bellingham, Schlotterbeck's running down his deal. You probably suspect Adeyemi is going to be doing a similar thing. These are second in the in the Bundesliga, in the Champions League. It's just being about factually honest about what you see. But suggestions around, and people didn't listen to me on the transfer show, around 20 million. So you could be talking like 25, a bit higher around there, but obviously Liverpool have their starting point. If the price was around, say, 25 million, you could understand that. I'm not saying that's a small amount. It's not in real world terms, but in football terms, it's not the biggest for an attacker by any means, is it?
No, definitely not. I mean, is he an ideal kind of player for us? Probably not. But can you see the profile working for us? Yeah. I think for 20 million quid, right? So let's put an equivalency of that. Let's say Chiesa goes for 15. Let's just say Yeah. Chiesa goes for 15. You bring this lad in for 20. It's cost you basically 5 million. And he's going to be cheaper wages because he's not, Chiesa's an Italian international, right? So is he going to give you more than your current, say, 4th or 5th choice forward?
Yeah.
Potentially, yes, because he's quicker, right? And that's something we are missing, as you quite rightly pointed out. So on that kind of balance, he might not be a bad January break glass. We need to get someone in, and he's all right to have around as a 5th choice forward. Is that going to be an easy sell for him? Probably not, but we're not the ones in the room telling them whether he's going to play or not every week. So, but no, if you look at to ship someone out who's not playing a lot and bring someone in who potentially could give you an option for, I mean, Mo's now through to quarterfinals, so he's not going to be back till after the Arsenal game. Maybe not even after that. You've got Isak's now not going to be back till probably March, April. So, you're looking at you're going to need 4 of those, an option up there, aren't you? So this could be a very quick, easy 20 million in help Stortman out, get rid of a player they may not want around, and we can use him for that period of time. Maybe I'll flip him in the summer. You never know. I'll flip him in a year's time.
Yeah. As much as we always talk about starters and moving the needle as we do on this show, sometimes it's, you have to remember a solid 4th or 5th choice is what the squad needs at times as well. Not everyone is in the starting 11. As you always talk about, sometimes, people to carry the piano and only a few to play it at the same time as well.
Exactly. So, you remember our Japanese friend Minamito, wasn't it? Or the
Minamino,
Great player to come off the bench when you need him at the start. And if you watch some of our best ever seasons, he scored vital goals at vital times. So there's a lot to be said for having a 5th choice forward who's quality.
Yeah, Shaqiri as well. People remember.
Yeah, definitely.
Things like that. So that's the one Bundesliga winger who we might be looking at potentially for now. Obviously, we'll have to see what develops with Semenyo, of course. But the other 2 that we're going to look at now, and we won't spend ages on these because maybe it's say down the summer, but it's starting to think about it. Diamande at Red Bull, as we said before, there's a lot of links with him. We mentioned on the transfer show, there's a lot of clubs interested for some of the raw data, small sample size. And sticking on small sample size, we had this on the transfer show as well. One that we know Liverpool have spoke to Frankfurt about, a French player, Bahoya. I must admit, didn't think that's how you pronounced it when I first saw his name. Me and Barts would have got that completely wrong, but that's what we've been told. Bahoya is it pronounced? But we'll start with Diomande, because with Diomande, Barts, I mean, everyone will know he's at AFCON at the moment, rapid, doing well in Bundesliga. This is a name that, let's just say, the agent's playing his job in hyping up as well at the same time. The one thing that I see, and we speak to obviously analysts and people in the industry, let's just say it right now to save you all whinging. Data sample small. We know that. We always say that up front. So let's just cut that out for a start. But we're looking at what does the data show? What trends are we putting on the table? Because, to be honest, Barts, when we speak to people in the industry, they are like crowing the praises of this kid at the same time. So I am intrigued to see what have you run on Diomande.
So Diamande, interesting one. We'll forget the minutes played, the rest of it, because you've highlighted that well, right? Defensively, he's in the green for tackles, interception, block. So roughly around where we want him to be, and better than the last lap we looked at, right? So that's a tick, okay? Aerials, again, slightly low, but again, could be due to role of in the side of Red Bull.
Yeah.
Between the boxes, much more like Barcola than Semenyo. All right. So carries it. Progressive passes received, still high, but if you look at progressive carries, 97% off. So again, a kid, give him the ball, get us up the pitch, right? Get us close to the goal, right? And that, there's a lot to be said for having that in your locker at the moment at pace. And I'll come to his pace in a minute. Take-ons, 99% off, successful take-ons. That's brilliant. So not only can he carry it, he can beat a man as well, right? If you look at it in the box, and this is probably where an area he's got to develop, right? And if you look at him on the video, he has a double step over and a drop shoulder drive move, which is, as a kid, we've all done that. You get one thing you're really comfortable at doing, and you do it a lot. But when
Skills
you get to the
Academy,
yeah, but when you get to the pro level, you get found out really quickly, and you've got to find another thing to do. And I think that's just part of his development. He's got to go, right, I can do this, but I need to not do that every time. I need to find another way of beating that player to get a shot off. He's happy to take a shot with both feet. Something else I liked about him. He's happy to cross with both feet as well, which I found was really interesting as well. So yeah, in terms of his non-penalty goals, 98th percentile, non-penalty XG, 74th. Shot creation, shots total down at 2. So again, he's not at that 3 level where we want him to be. Shot creating action zone, 94th percentile, which gives you a little indication that he's happy to pass the ball. So these green areas in terms of passes attempted at pass completion, yeah, he could pass the ball more, but he's very accurate in when he does it. Comparing him to Semenyo, which is where we are talking about at the moment. Compares pretty well, to be fair. I mean, he outperforms him on a lot of the attacking metrics. Defensively, sure, Semenyo's a little bit higher, and Semenyo is a little bit better on the defensive side and the dribble attacking. But in terms of the actual attacking stuff, he compares well or outperforms him. So there is certainly some things that you can look at and go, yeah, all right, I can see where this kid has done well. Yeah. Just click on Diamande for you. Picking the ball up in good areas, okay. So driving again, Starfleet goes into the left half space, which is kind of where we want him to be. Just looking at his involved. Red Bull are a possession-based team in certain games, but in other games they're more of an counter. So that seems to be aware of it. Styles differently, but again, there's some good credentials to play with. In terms of this particular game, he contributed 85% of the team EPB, so a little bit less than we want.
True.
Where's he picking the ball up? He's picking the ball sort of in and around these kind of areas, so that's just below 10% of the team's EPB. Off the ball, he is contributing because he's in and around these areas. It's about 10%, nearly 10-14% of the defensive action. So again, not too bad, but little things we have to nudge up to fit into our system. I think he scored a hat trick in this game. Yeah. So wasn't a bad game to be picking on. And a variety of shots here. He scored one from the edge, one central, and one right. So yeah, so some interesting two centrally where you want and one to the right. But no, I think overall some good players. I also think something from him. 0.12 from Markar stats in terms of threat, 35.9 in terms of pace from the Bully League, and also he's quite happy to take a foul. So get up, shield it, take a foul. Which as a kid, young players generally maybe won't do that. They'll sort of like, no, I want to beat him. You're like, yeah, but there's a position you do that, and there's a time that you just take that. Curtis Jones at the weekend versus Wolves, very, very tight areas, got the ball, worked out whether he could get out of it or not. And if he couldn't get out of it, as soon as it was contacted to the foul, right? And that's something that you normally learn through experience, but it's good to see when you watch him, he does that quite a lot of for Red Bull. So, yeah, I think there's some really green shoots of potential. One for the summer, I would suggest, but definitely something to keep an eye on with this kid. Yeah, certainly, for sure.
The thing is, and we watched the footage as well, you looked at the stats, that there is an awful lot to like at this kid. And it's kind of one of those that, and we do have to talk price. If all things were equal on the 3 Bundesliga players that we're looking at and the price was equal, I think you're steering towards Diamande, aren't you? But the prices aren't equal, it's important to say. But if all the prices were equal with age, profile, you do like this boy, don't you?
Yeah. I think there's because of his age profile and some of the things that aren't in his game, like Dortmund, there's a few things in there I just don't like. He's learned things that I'm like, that's going to be hard to coach out of it. And to be honest, I might be doing disservice, but in the games I watched of the kid at Dortmund, as I said, he beat a player through pace. Whereas the thing I like about Diamande is, yes, he needs to learn more to have in his locker more variety, but he could beat a player through a variety of means, not just his pace. And I think you need that in the Premier League. You're playing good defenders in the Premier League. You need to have variety in your attacking. And I like the fact that they gave him the ball at a young age when just get us on the pitch. Go and get us on the pitch. And to give that responsibility to a kid shows you how much they value that player. So Red Bull are very good at scouting players. We know that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do like that kid. I'd be lying a bit if that wasn't the case.
Red Bull are very good at scouting players. Red Bull are very good at selling players, as the baby Xavi Simons and Benjamin Sesko. And I hope Tottenham and Spurs and United kept the receipts, but that's probably a different conversation. And it's interesting when you look at those two, because believe it or not, Bart, you're not the only nerd I have on speed dial. But actually, when you look at Diomande and Adeyimi, and a few analysts talk to us about these, as you know, when we go digging, their sprints are near identical. They're both about 260 sprints this season, and their speeds are near identical as well. I think it's like 35.9 plays 35.8, which both rapid either way. That way, it's just as you said, it's that differential of Adeyemi more on the end of things, Diomande more sometimes make stuff happen, get us up the pitch. So it's what type you're looking for a little bit that way as well. But price for Diomande, listen, people, on this, Red Bull are desperate for an auction. Red Bull are desperate for everyone to come in. They will sign for highest bidder. So just on that a little bit, we'll see. It's hard to say, but I mean, Red Bull are putting it out there. They'd like to start the bidding around 100 million euros, which Liverpool will not get involved at that price, put it that way. So we'll see what happens. But the final one, Barts, Bahoya. Now, we got this on the transfer show that Liverpool have spoke to Frankfurt, the famed Marcus Kroescher, I think it's pronounced, isn't it? Their sporting director. We've obviously got great relations. We signed Hugo Ekitike this summer as well. Bahoya is French, good pals with Hugo Ekitike apparently as well. Now, we're going to have a look at his profile, but before we start going on to the metrics themselves, it's important to say that if you go on to Antoine Semenyo's profile and say top 10 players to compare to, Bahoya is there, isn't it? They are similar in terms of that element. So just remember that. Also, 3 years left to go in the summer. Price point, but maybe because people, just before you get into this and start jumping, he is very young. But, and you're going to jump on this, you're not going to like this either. Similar to Semenyo, an element of, do not shoot us for this, a Jacob Murphy type player. This is not saying he's Jacob Murphy, but think what Arne Slot said about that at the same time. So, Bahoya, Barts. I mean, I was looking there, and let me put the right one up. Some green, but quite similar. Well, I mean, look at that when you overlap him for Semenyo. It looks like two stuffed turkeys, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, I think off the ball, clearly, though Frankfurt are in that sort of middle echelon, they work hard. They're not a dominant side. They have to work hard off the ball, right? You don't get in that. So that's why a lot of the defensive metrics are really high. So context is important, and that would help us out in terms of what he's going to do for us, right?
True.
But the rest of it is a bit. Yeah, I'd be lying if it wasn't like lighting up, if you know what I mean, right? So between the box isn't a story of someone you definitely want to look at. Does he tap players on? 70% are. So that's his best metric in between the boxes. He doesn't receive progressive passes at a high rate, and he doesn't do. My keypad, and he doesn't complete passes at a particularly high rate either. So there are some things to look at when you're trying to compare him. I think also in the box, he's not particularly fruitful at the moment either. Shots total at 1.34, which is not that high, as you all know. We always talk about a little bit near the 3 mark. Yeah, so that's in the 9th percentile for a player in his position. Shot created actions, 38th percentile. So that's not even in the over halfway. That's below. That's 3.34. We would be looking at players like 4 or 5. Yeah, so he's neither taking the shots or creating the opportunities at the moment. All right, but you are right. His profile is very similar to Semenyo's, right? Yeah. So it is what it is. You run his dashboard. He plays on the left here, starts deep, goes into left half space. Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but that is typically the kind of profile of the player we are looking at. He's not receiving the ball in the same volume as other players. If we look at terms of his off the ball, 6% of the off the ball work came from his areas. Shots, he didn't take any shots in this particular game, so he's not going to create any XG. And in terms of his contribution, he contributed to 6% of the team's threat. So, yeah, I mean, Mark R's got him at 0.08 passing XT. He's got 17. So, yeah, 17% for pass and cross. So there are some things to him to be looking at. It does play very wide, wide, right? Whereas the others kind of operate in that they come into the half space and then play. Yeah. He plays very wide. His top speed's 34.8 on the Buddy site. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say, we looked at a right-sided player who plays very right, quick. Might be the lad at Brighton, actually. And he was quick and just delivered balls. Yeah. So he looks more of a traditional winger, should we say, rather than someone who he will cross rather than shoot. The Brighton lad does that as well, he'll cross rather than shoot. Whereas all the other players we've looked at will typically do both. All right. So, yeah, I think he's a youngster. There are some things to maybe like about him, but I would say he's a little bit further down the list than the others. But, yeah.
This almost feels like, and I'm going to put it this way, like more of a what people I think believed an FSG signing would be. You know, almost get them before at a certain age and they develop and push there. And it's interesting because you mentioned the speed. It's so weird because his speed's below 35 this season. So if you didn't know the player, you would look and go, that's not quick. But we've watched the footage and got the stuff sent from analysts, Barts. There's a few things to note here, people. Bahoya is the fastest player in Bundesliga history. Last season clocked over 37, as in Olympic sprinter type speed. So keep that in mind. It's the fastest player in Bundesliga history, and he did this last year. So maybe, and you watch the footage, it doesn't always seem to be that he does big sprints this season. But when you see the footage, Barts, you can't deny this. Almost get the ball, beat a man, get it in. That seems to be a little bit of his game, isn't it, realistically?
Oh, 100%. That is, nothing fancy about it. Old school winger. Yeah. Get it in the right area, deliverable. Whether you could finesse that to put it into this area or this area or this area, you'd hope you put his professional player. But no, definitely. There's not an iota of if you're in here, take a shot on, or if you're in here, do X. It's literally get into this area and deliver a ball in the box. So, it's a different profile of player, definitely.
But it is important to remember that Arne Slot has talked about a Jacob Murphy type and, servicing Isak. And this could be a player who fits into that. We know they've looked at, as you mentioned, Minter at Brighton. This could, this guy could be that, I suppose you call it the cheaper option or the value option of that, because Minter's probably price point is beyond what he's doing Brighton, you fancy, and we know how hard it is to deal with them. Yeah, it is just one to keep an eye on for the summer. I suppose we'll probably save the South American boys a bit for another time, Bart, but I'm giving you a proper grenade of a question here. With Semenyo, Barcola, your three German lads, as in Diomande, Adeyimi, Bahoya. Who are your top three?
On ability, for me, Barcola, Semenyo, and Adeyimi, the Dortmund lad. And then Diamande, for me, I like him more than the Dortmund lad, so he'd be in above there a little more. But if you go, and it depends on what, obviously we're looking at Semenyo right now, okay, but if he goes by the wayside, then Diamande comes up to number 2 for me. And then Adeyimi comes into 3, right? Obviously, because Semenyo goes out the window. But there's still a lot to like in Semenyo's game. I'm just very wary that we're not the only club in the mix. And Barcola for me is still number one. I still like him more as a player in terms of quality, and I think he could really help us. Particularly, if you read the tea leaves and you see how things potentially could go in the departure of certain players over the next 2 windows. Yeah, there's a lot to be said to bringing in a top player to replace the top player rather than a project player.
And solving your speed issues in one foul swoop at the same time as well. So
exactly.
I'm on board with that. Although, and I think as a final point, Semenyo and Bahoya, identical profiles. I know one's in different, but you saw how they overlapped. Adeyimi, a bit different, but very similar to Diamande in terms of the sprints they make, as we say they're about 260 this season each. Speed similar, maybe one's just a carrier, one's more on the end of things that way, and then a bit separate. One thing that's clear as we're starting to look at this for now and the summer, Liverpool want to bring in speed, don't they?
Yeah, they want speed from wide areas, 100%. And when they brought in 2 fullbacks over the summer that are absolutely rapid, from Frimpong, if he actually gets a run of games, will clock some of the highest speeds in Premier League history. And Curtis isn't slow either, by the way. So, they're both absolutely rapid in what they're doing. So, and Ekatike, as he's already shown, he's pretty quick down the middle. So, and he's actually not operating anywhere. He won't operate anywhere near his top speed for this season. I doubt it. You have to come back next season to be a bit quicker. But but they definitely want to add speed because they've lost it. They've lost speed down. Diaz has gone, and he was a very quick player for us. Mo isn't the pace he was. He's still a quick player compared to normal, but he's not a massively speed out there for us now on the counter. So, and then if you look around midfield, we generally don't have quick players. We're playing Mac slightly higher now. Mac's a great player, but he's not a quick player. So you can't give him the ball and say go and carry it for us because he's just not going to be that pretty. So I think you'd be a fool if you weren't a sporting director looking to add pace to our team, particularly when if you can actually start defending counter set pieces, they are also an opportunity to score from as well, how we used to. But you need pace on the break to do that, and we don't currently do that in abundance.
We don't. We genuinely don't. But Liverpool are looking at pace. Although, again, people, we were back with another pod because, like a few of you, we're thinking, isn't the defensive options, a DM, progression from the back and things like that more important? But we don't make any of these calls, do we? All it needs me to say, as ever, is for the time, the insight, for running the metrics, for doing your homework and watching all the tapes and things that we've been sent. But it is massively appreciated.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was another Transfer Market Metrics for Anfield Index.